You're watching London Weekend Television, part of the ITV network.
John Barnes returned for Liverpool today and delivered the goods. Liverpool go into the 90s in the same position as they entered the 80s, top of the pile. Their nearest challengers as the decade draws to a close, Aston Villa, the main man, David Platt, number 16 of the season for Platt, Arsenal outgunned. The only manager to start and finish the 80s in the same job, Brian Clough, his 1,000th time in charge today, Forest celebrating on his behalf at Spurs. As the decade changes, maybe a change of fortune for Alex Ferguson, a gutsy performance by Manchester United to get a point at Wimbledon. It might easily have been 3. Some festive cheer for Chelsea at last, having gone 6 weeks without a win. Kevin Wilson helping to earn all the points at Luton. And 2 for Southampton's Matthew Le Tissier to earn a point against Sheffield Wednesday. Saints move up to 4th. Very good afternoon. Let's see if we can provide you with some seasonal cheer as well by taking a check on all the scores and scorers in the First Division to start with. Liverpool 1, Charlton 0. The first 3 scores all confirmed. John Barnes, the match winner, but Liverpool still have got a very poor goals tally at home in recent weeks. Only 7 goals in the last 7 home games. Ian Rush missed a penalty. Aston Villa 2, Arsenal 1, very much the game of the day, and you'll be able to see those goals very shortly. David Platt and Derek Mountfield with a crunching header for Aston Villa. Tony Adams scored for Arsenal in the last minute. Tottenham 2, Nottingham Forest 3. Gary Lineker put Spurs in front with his 13th of the season, and right at the death he made it 14 for the season. But in between, Nigel Clough, Gary Crosby and Gary Parker made it a winning conclusion to the 80s for Nottingham Forest. Southampton 2, Sheffield Wednesday 2. Good game by all accounts there. Daly and Atkinson put Sheffield Wednesday in front. Then 2 for Matthew Le Tissier after 43 minutes of penalty. What looked to be a winner after 59, but an equaliser for Sheffield Wednesday by Peter Shirtliff. Crystal Palace 1, Norwich 0. Now, it's 10 points from the last 4 games, Palace. They're creeping up, round about mid-table now. Ian Wright, after 59 minutes, that's his 11th goal of the season, now joint top scorer with Mark Bright. They're both on 11. Luton 0, Chelsea 3. Chelsea hitting back with a vengeance. They conceded 19 goals in their previous 5 games, but goals today from Kevin Wilson, who scored after 42 and 67 minutes, and then Kerry Dixon after 83, his 12th of the season, and Dixon in fact has scored in each of Chelsea's last 4 games. And from Luton's point of view, it's only 4 points now from their last 8 games. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Everton 0. Andy Sinton after 7 minutes. In fact, that was the quickest goal of the day in the First Division. 7 minutes gone. Everton won last time out at Derby, but they don't seem to find any consistency at all at the moment. Derby 4, Coventry 1. Nick Pickering put Derby in front against his old club. Then a couple for Trevor Hebbard, and David Speedy scored Coventry's goal 56 minutes before Craig Ramage wrapped it up for Derby 4-1. Good win for them after losing at home to Everton last time. Wimbledon 2, Manchester United 2. Eric Young put Wimbledon in front. Then Viv Anderson equalised for United, his first of the season. Mark Robbins just a minute later put them 2-1 up in his first full game of the season, his first goal. United, you know, had only got 2 points and 1 goal from their previous 6 games, so really that a very heartening result for them, even though Alan Cork scored for Wimbledon right at the death. And Manchester City 2, Millwall 0. David White with both goals after 24 and 69 minutes. City still undefeated now since Howard Kendall took over as manager. As promised, the goals from Villa Park. Aston Villa against Arsenal, top game of the day, finished 2-1 to Villa. Commentator Martin Tyler.
Here's Daly again. Cowans. Ormond against Bold in the centre. Platt. Oh, he's done it brilliantly. Wonderful goal. David Platt. A great year it's been for him. Can Villa break free from the shackles to have a corner? Daly, maybe Villa will score from it. Derek Mountfield, they have! Arsenal in a line, look at the linesman. Lukic in disbelief. There might be a goal here though, simply through weight of numbers. Groves. That's Adams! But there still may be time. 2-1.
There wasn't. Villa and Arsenal changing places. That's Villa just tucked in behind Liverpool now, Arsenal in third place. Manchester United still haven't given up hope with the Championship, although you've got to say it'll be a pretty tough order for them. But they got a point at Wimbledon today. They'll surely settle for that. Details from Peter Brackley.
A quite extraordinary finale to the game. 3 goals in the last 15 minutes as the match swung first one way and then the other. Wimbledon were deservedly leading through Eric Young's header from a corner on 21 minutes by Dennis Wise, and they should have had more too, John Fashanu in particular, before United suddenly sprung to life a quarter of an hour from the end with 2 goals in 60 seconds. Mark Hughes played a part in both, the first steered in by Viv Anderson, and the second a header from young Mark Robbins playing his first full game of the season. Alex Ferguson thought at last his luck had changed, but then in the very last minute, Wimbledon's veteran substitute Alan Cork clipped in a dramatic equaliser.
Thanks very much indeed, Peter. Let's take a full classified check now on all the scores in England and in Scotland with Bob Colston.
Thanks, Elton, and we begin with Barclays League Division 1. Aston Villa 2, Arsenal 1. Crystal Palace 1, Norwich 0. Derby County 4, Coventry 1. Liverpool 1, Charlton 0. Luton 0, Chelsea 3. Manchester City 2, Millwall 0. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Everton 0. Southampton 2, Sheffield Wednesday 2. Tottenham 2, Nottingham Forest 3. And Wimbledon 2, Manchester United 2. Division 2, not on the pools, Barnsley 1, Leeds 0. Bradford City 2, West Bromwich Albion 0. Brighton 0, Oxford United 1. Ipswich 3, Middlesbrough 0. Leicester 1, West Ham 0. Oldham 3, Portsmouth 3. Sheffield United 1, Blackburn 2. Stoke 2, Watford 2. Sunderland 2, Port Vale 2. Swindon 1, Newcastle 1. And Wolves 3, Bournemouth 1. Division 3, Bolton 3, Bury 1. Bristol Rovers 2, Tranmere 0. Chester 2, Blackpool 0. Fulham 2, Shrewsbury 1. Huddersfield 2, Bristol City 1. Leyton Orient 2, Crewe 1. Mansfield 1, Northampton 2. Notts County 3, Birmingham 2. Preston 1, Wigan 1. Reading 3, Rotherham 2. Swansea 2, Brentford 1. And Walsall 0, Cardiff 2. Division 4, Aldershot 1, Rochdale 1. Burnley 1, Halifax 0. Doncaster 2, Colchester 0. Gillingham 1, Wrexham 0. Hartlepool 4, Grimsby 2. Lincoln 1, Carlisle 3. Peterborough 1, Scarborough 2. Scunthorpe 0, Chesterfield 1. Southend 1, Exeter 2. Torquay against Maidstone as a late result. And York 1, Hereford 2. GM Vauxhall Conference, these matches are not on the pools. Barnet 4, Sutton United 1. Barrow 1, Altrincham 1. Boston 2, Stafford 0. Darlington 3, Chorley 0. Enfield against Welling as a late result. Fisher Athletic 1, Yeovil 2. Kettering 1, Farnborough 1. Macclesfield against Runcorn as a late result. Merthyr Tydfil 0, Telford 0. And Northwich against Kidderminster is also a late result. And Wickham 0, Cheltenham 4. BEAZER Holmes League Premier Division. VS Rugby 2, Alvechurch 0. Wealdstone 1, Waterlooville 0. Weymouth 2, Moor Green 1. And Worcester 1, Corby 0. B&Q Scottish League Premier Division. Celtic 0, Dunfermline 2. Dundee 1, Dundee United 1. Hibernian 0, Rangers 0. Motherwell 2, Aberdeen 2. And St Mirren 2, Hearts 0. Scottish Division 1, Albion Rovers 5, Partick 4. Alloa 0, Meadowbank 1. Clyde 1, Morton 1. Clydebank 4, St Johnstone 0. Forfar 1, Ayr 0. Hamilton against Airdrie as a panel result, 1.5 points, away win. And not on the pools, Wraith 4, Falkirk 0. Tennent's Scottish Cup, second round. These matches are not on the pools. Dumbarton 0, Cowdenbeath 2. Elgin City 2, Brechin 2. Gala Fairydean against Inverness Caledonian, late result. Ross County against East Fife, match postponed. Stenhousemuir 0, Queen of the South 1. Stirling 3, Whitehill Welfare 0. Stranraer 1, Kilmarnock 1. And finally, Vale of Leithen 1, East Stirling 3.
Thanks, Bob. Here's the pool's news. The score draws first. 8, 10, 15, 17, 18, 19, 29, 33, 49, 51 and 55. And just the one no-score draw in Scotland, number 50 at Hibernian. Today's other headlines, Rugby League first. Joe Lydon scored an early try to set up the holders Wigan for a convincing victory over Castleford by 24 points to 10 in the semi-final of Rugby League's Regal Trophy at Headingley. Wigan now face Halifax in the final, which is also at Headingley. Athletics' Peter Elliott there outstripped a class field, including his great rival Steve Cram, to win the 2,000 metres cross-country race at Durham. Cram, who's not been selected for England's Commonwealth Games squad, trails in third behind Tony Morrell. Let's have a look at the top and bottom of the First Division here in England, just to confirm what we suspected at the start. Liverpool obviously still out in front in pole position as we move into the 90s. 4 points ahead of Aston Villa, but Villa, Arsenal, Southampton, Chelsea and Norwich, in that order, all have a game in hand. And at the bottom of the First Division, it's Charlton still right down there. They lost, of course, at Anfield today in the top v bottom clash. Sheffield Wednesday, although a point, is still in the bottom three. And Millwall, with only one win now in 12 games, just below the two Manchester clubs in 17th place. Second Division news now. Leeds stayed top of the table despite their morning defeat at Barnsley. Darren Foreman was the Barnsley scorer with a 39th minute goal to give new manager Mel Machin a winning start at Oakwell. Sheffield United blew a chance to take over at the top when they lost at home to Blackburn. Brian Deane put United in front after 10 minutes, but Andy Kennedy equalised for Rovers 5 minutes later, and Simon Garner scored a 78th minute winner. Oldham's 25-game unbeaten home run looked in danger when Guy Whittingham completed a hat-trick in the first 34 minutes for Portsmouth at Boundary Park. But Oldham replied through Mike Milligan, and the veteran Roger Palmer, a first-half substitute for Andy Ritchie, and then Milligan chipped in with another, the equaliser, after 86 minutes. Newcastle looked like bouncing back from their Boxing Day defeat at Stoke when Mickey Quinn scored his 21st goal of the season in first-half injury time at Swindon, but Duncan Shearer equalised in the last minute. Let's see where that leaves Newcastle at the top of the second division, and of course who's at the bottom as well. In fact, they're in sixth place now, just behind Ipswich and Oldham. Sunderland, Sheffield United and Leeds, the top three. Stoke still at the bottom. Hull, Portsmouth, who got a point at Oldham today. The real shock in Scotland, of course, was that Celtic lost at home to Dunfermline. Andy Walker missed his second penalty in successive matches as Celtic were surprisingly beaten. Walker also fell from the spot against Hearts on Boxing Day. On New Year's Day, you can see the next instalment of the match, Nottingham Forest against Liverpool. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team today at 5:15 on ITV.
But first on London Weekend Television, we join ITN for the news.
The news from ITN.
America accused by Nicaragua of violating diplomatic immunity in Panama. Nicaragua is expelling 20 American diplomats after US troops searched their ambassador's house in Panama. The Nicaraguans say the troops ransacked the building, violating their ambassador's diplomatic immunity. America says the raid was justified because they believed the house contained weapons.
This morning, an angry Nicaraguan ambassador pointed to damage he said was caused during the US raid on his home. He also said the troops took cash and a watch.
My brother called me at the embassy and told me that the house had been surrounded and that the troops had ordered everyone to come out with their hands up or they would be shot. And they really meant it because they started shooting into the air.
The Americans had been watching the Nicaraguans very closely on the grounds that they might possibly harbor Noriega. The American version of last night's incident is that this wasn't the ambassador's official residence and that they had acted in good faith after hearing from neighbors that arms were stored inside. The Americans say they found an arsenal.
4 Uzis, machetes, a variety of magazines, small weapons, large amounts of ammunition, 11 AK-47s, 10 Fenn rifles.
Nicaragua's president denounced the Americans as common criminals. He's sending 20 US diplomats home in retaliation. As for Noriega himself, a few minutes ago, US forces completely sealed off the area around the papal embassy. There is speculation that there might just be a break in the deadlock. Ken Rees, ITN, Panama City.
Hong Kong police say they'll open fire if they're attacked by Vietnamese boat people who resist being sent back. Yesterday, 24 police and 14 boat people were injured in fighting when guards searched one detention camp for weapons.
This display of homemade weapons seized at the Chi Ma Wan camp shows how close the police operation had come to ending in a bloodbath. The officer who ordered his riot police to storm the detention center said the Vietnamese had repeatedly refused to allow an orderly search. He had feared for the lives of his men and had been prepared to use live ammunition.
If that had taken place on the streets of Hong Kong, then the police officer who was offered that degree of violence would have been justified, in my opinion, in opening fire.
Order has been restored, though there were some small signs in these raised fists of the defiance that is so prevalent here. So the mood at this camp today seems to be one of fear, but also of determination to resist forced repatriation to Vietnam, whatever the cost. Norman Rees, ITN, at the Chi Ma Wan camp, Lanto Island.
China has attacked Britain's decision to give more than 200,000 Hong Kong Chinese the right to live in Britain. The Foreign Ministry said Britain's plan was a gross violation of its own solemn commitment to returning the colony to Chinese rule in 1997. Reports are coming in that protesters in the Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan have taken over a city after police opened fire during a demonstration. One person was killed and more than 100 wounded in the shooting at Zalilabad. The angry crowd then chased the police and Communist Party leadership out of the city. Romania's new Prime Minister has been explaining the decision to kill the former dictator Nicolae Ceausescu after his trial. Petrai Roman says there was a plot to free Ceausescu from prison.
The Prime Minister's office, protected by the army from would-be assassins around his door, as Petrai Roman outlines his vision of Romania's future.
We're talking a consensus for rebuild the country because Ceausescu has led now in a disaster, economically, socially. We haven't now a basis to be a civilized society.
In an exclusive interview, he told ITN the decision to execute President Ceausescu was taken when the new administration learnt of a plot to free the dictator.
We have very reliable information that parachutists, the aerial troops, were prepared to invade the place. It was a military camp, not very well protected. And if the dictator would have been released, then it would have been really blood and again blood.
Prime Minister Roman says tomorrow's headlines will tell that the street war with Ceausescu's secret police has now been won. Paul Davis, ITN, Bucharest.
The people of Lockerbie say their New Year's honours have come as an unexpected privilege. 19 civilians got awards. Among other awards, the former Liberal leader David Steele is knighted and the actress Maggie Smith becomes a dame.
These were awards to honour all the people of Lockerbie who helped ease their town's suffering. They went to men like dog handler Bill Parr, who got an MBE.
On reflection, it was a recognition of all the effort, especially the dogs and the handlers, put in, but also the other rescue teams, the emergency services, the police.
Inspector George Stubbs, who helped look after the relatives of those who had died, got a Queen's Police Medal. And another of the 22 awards went to the hallkeeper at Lockerbie Town Hall, George Johnston, who was awarded the British Empire Medal.
I thought it was a great surprise, like to me.
Attack in which he lost both legs. The award is not connected with that attack, but it is recognition of his bravery while serving as a diplomatic bodyguard in Beirut. There's recognition for the entertaining as well as the brave. Frank Bruno, currently in pantomime in London, declared his MBE was magic.
Very, very, very forward to looking, going to Buckingham Palace, you know, with my top hat and, you know what I mean?
The next news from ITN is at 10 o'clock. Good evening.